Hello, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to my live. All right, so this morning I'd like to talk about criminal waivers. What are they? When do you need them? How does it apply to immigration law and so forth? And after that, I will be more than happy to answer any of your questions. You go ahead and just type them here. What I do is after I'm done with my spiel on criminal waivers, I will scroll back, I will read each one, and I will answer them. Okay? There is nothing that you can ask me in immigration law that I won't be able to answer you. Okay? I may need more information ultimately, but I will be able to answer ultimately any question in immigration law. That's what having 30 years of experience and being a certified specialist in immigration and nationality law does. Okay, so let's get to it. So, when somebody wants to immigrate to the US, whether it's, family based or whether it is employment based or whether you're a victim of crime and you're doing it that way, or a victim of trafficking, or through the diversity lottery, for all intents purposes, if you are applying for a green card, you may qualify without a problem for the underlying petition. Okay, meaning, let's just say, for example, your wife petitions you. Your wife's a U.S. citizen, you have two kids, and you are from, whatever country you're from. And let's say that the petitions go forward and perfectly for your spouse, your kids, but you are denied. Why? Because you had a crime 25 years ago, okay, and you thought that it wouldn't be any issue. So you have to understand that immigration law is not real forgiving, okay? They don't care it was 25 years ago. They don't care, in many cases, if it was expunged. You might have law that says criminal law that says if you get an expungement, that for all intents and purposes, that crime is dismissed and never existed. Well, that's not how it is in immigration. They don't care that you got it expunged, and minus some very few exceptions, the crime still exists and you still might be inadmissible. Okay, so first of all, what does inadmissibility mean? Okay, so if you're getting a green card, what they're going to do, and they being immigration, is they will go through your history, through the facts, through the events, and they will see if you've done something in your past that under the law says, because you've done this, you don't qualify for the green card. Okay, that's basically what it says. So there's all kinds of grounds of inadmissibility, but we are talking today about criminal grounds of inadmissibility, which means you committed a crime. Okay? So it doesn't, just so you know, it doesn't always mean you have to have actually committed the crime. This is a problem that people have. A lot of them, when they go for their interviews, they think they don't have any conviction and they think it's not going to be a problem. And they don't consult an attorney, and they say stuff like, well, I was never convicted of assault because, well, to be honest, I had a really good lawyer. I might have hit that person, but they were able to get me off without a sentence. Well, you just admitted to the elements of assault, which means that under immigration purposes, that means you are inadmissible because of it, even if you don't have the conviction. Okay? Or people might make the mistake, which has happened a lot, that they get an expungement, or they didn't ever actually have a conviction, but they were arrested and it was dismissed. And they said to themselves, well, it was expunged. I was arrested but never convicted, so I don't have to disclose this because it wasn't a real conviction. So they'll say, the officer will ask them, will say, so, do you have any arrests, any criminal history, anything on your record? And of course, you'll say no. And I guarantee you the officer's not asking you because the officer really wants to know. The officer has all your records in front of him or her. Okay, the officer already knows the answer to the question. The officer wants to see if you're going to lie. Okay, and when you say no, the officer, boom, says, okay, you are now inadmissible because of fraud and misrepresentation. So you might not have been inadmissible because of an arrest, but you are now inadmissible because of the fraud and misrepresentation. So this all happens because people with criminal history go into interviews and they don't handle it properly. Okay, just so you know. So what do I look for first? Now that you know what inadmissibility is, what do I look for first to see if the person is inadmissible based on the crime? Well, first, obviously, there's the law, the Immigration and Nationality Act. So, I have to look and see what was it that the person was convicted of and what was the sentence. And I look at the statutory language of the crime. I look at the max sentence. I look at some other factors and then determine if the person is inadmissible. So if it's on a gray line, like sometimes they might be, they might not be, sometimes then we still have to do a criminal waiver. But the first argument is they don't really need it because they're not inadmissible because of this, because of all these legal reasons. But if you, the officer, disagree, then, then we go forward with the waiver. So the first thing we determine is if they're inadmissible based on the crime. The next thing I have to determine is there a waiver available for the crime? So then some people might be asking, well, what exactly is a waiver? Well, for all intents and purposes, assume that you are inadmissible because of a crime, okay? You want the green card, they're not going to let you in because you committed some crime. What does a waiver do? Well, to prepare a waiver is a whole separate matter, and it's very detailed and takes a while, and it's individualized, right? But the bottom line is that a waiver essentially says, for all of these reasons, please forget about my crime and let me in. Okay, I mean, that's the bottom line, okay? You show the necessary hardship to the qualifying relative, and you argue why the waiver should be granted. So not every crime requires a waiver because it doesn't make them inadmissible, or sometimes, many times, a crime is ineligible for a waiver. Okay, so that's the next thing that I have to determine is whether or not the particular crime allows for a waiver. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that somebody committed domestic violence or assault and they have a sentence of 16 months in jail. Even if, let's say, a year was suspended and they only spent 4 months in jail. Because the sentence for assault, crime of violence, is over a year, they are considered an aggravated felon under immigration law. And because of that, there's the normal criminal waiver is not available to them. I mean, I get these clients all the time that first contact me and they go, well, I had a crime, domestic violence 12 years ago. Everything's hunky-dory now. It was all a mistake. I pled guilty just so I wouldn't have to serve in jail. And the judge gave me, 15, 16 months, but suspended the sentence. Well, they're an aggravated felon, and waiver's not going to work, and we have to go other routes, which there are, in order to help them. So now let's assume that a waiver is available. Okay, so first we've determined they're inadmissible. We determine a waiver is available. Now we have to prepare the waiver. So the first thing you have to realize is that waivers are not easy to get approved. They're discretionary. And there's so many people out there that think that when they file a 4-page waiver and they say, my spouse will suffer without me, that's sufficient. Okay, and then of course it gets denied. They come to my office. They go, why did I get it denied? I filled out the form. I said my wife was going to suffer. Well, the officer is under no legal obligation to approve a waiver, and it by no means is guaranteed. Okay, which brings me to a small point. Sometimes I'll get clients wanting to sign up with my office, and they'll say, "I will sign up with you if you guarantee me success." Well, come on. Nobody, no immigration lawyer who knows what they're doing and is worth their salt can guarantee you success. That's a fact. Okay? That's like saying, I guarantee you that I will get in the mind of the adjudicator, control their mind, and make it so that they click yes. Okay? Well, you can't do that. Okay? And anyone who says that they can do that, that they have an inside track with the officers in immigration, they're lying to you. Okay? So the reason you hire an expert like myself to prepare the waiver for you is we know how to make it convincing. We know all the laws that need to be proven. Okay? I mean, a waiver has a lot of stuff in it. And by the end of it, we want the officer crying. We want to say, yes, okay, I understand. I'll grant this. And if they don't, of course, there's appealable grounds, but you want to try to get it approved in the first place. So that is why you do everything you can to make sure the waiver is properly approved, okay, or prepared. So it's as strong as it can be, all right? So that, in essence, is essentially an introduction to criminal waivers and when they're needed and whether the waivers can be prepared. Now, keep in mind there's different kinds of criminal waivers. You might have a crime that's older than 15 years and qualify for the 15-year waiver, which is easier to get than others. Okay? So that's how it goes. So I hope that you've enjoyed the live here. Let me just see if we have any questions. I've had to do a bit of a shorter live today because I do have to get going shortly. But if you didn't ask your questions now, you can certainly ask them after or subsequent to this, whatever you prefer. So here you go. Hope you enjoyed it. Everybody have a good day.